Thank you, Ms Vaz. It's a great pleasure to see you in the chair today and to have the opportunity to speak in Westminster Hall for the first time in some while. I'd like to begin by congratulating my honourable friend on securing today's debate and on the excellent work that he's doing to lead the all-party parliamentary group on deafness. I'm very proud to represent a constituency that's home to the national charity, the Ear Foundation, of which I'm a patron. We're also home to the Medical Research Council's Institute for Hearing Research and the Biomedical Research Unit on Hearing, and indeed the excellent Audiology Department of Nottingham University Hospitals Trust. Their work is outstanding and makes a huge contribution to our understanding of hearing loss and deafness in the UK and of the ways in which we can best support those with hearing difficulties to fulfil their potential and live the lives they choose. Back in November 2013, I secured an adjournment debate on hearing loss in adulthood and pressed the then Minister, the Honourable Member for North Norfolk, to get on with publishing the long-awaited action plan on hearing loss and to monitor its implementation. So when it was published in March 2015, it was welcomed on all sides of the House and, of course, by everyone with an interest in hearing issues. It sets out really clearly the high personal, societal and economic costs of hearing loss, if you will, the case for action, and the action that needs to be taken: better prevention, early diagnosis and the right provision of support and services. Now, as my honourable friend has very well set out, the case for action is huge. 11 million people in the UK are currently affected by hearing loss. That's 1 in 6 of us and translates to about 10,000 of our constituents. And with an ageing population, both the number and the proportion of us affected is rising fast. But it isn't just the numbers affected that makes this a major public health issue. It's the significant impact that untreated hearing loss has on people's health and well-being. To communicate is to be part of society, and losing your hearing is not simply about the absence of sound. If it's not addressed, hearing loss becomes the loss of our capacity to take place in social life. To take part in social life. It's a 24/7 condition, and in most cases there is no cure. So it's no exaggeration to say that it can destroy lives. And because communication is at the core of human experience, people with hearing loss can find it very difficult to negotiate everyday interactions, whether it's in the workplace or on the bus or at the supermarket or indeed in the local doctor's surgery, and that can lead to isolation and exclusion. It can also damage personal relationships. Many deaf people report finding it difficult to join in with family conversations and jokes. Couples say they feel more distant from each other and from their friends. Partners of people with a hearing problem describe feelings of loneliness and frustration. Travelling on public transport becomes a challenge. A minor problem, such as a platform alteration or a delayed connection, can become a major problem if you miss the announcement, and that can leave deaf people feeling anxious and vulnerable, worried about being left stranded or lost. But the failure to address hearing problems doesn't just affect individuals and their families, it has implications for society as a whole. It's estimated that hearing loss costs the UK economy £25 billion a year in lost productivity and unemployment. Too many people are forced to resign or retire early or face redundancy as a result of their disability. Of the 300,000 people of working age with a severe hearing impairment, 20% report being unemployed and seeking work, and another 10% report that they cannot seek work due to their ill health. And as the state pension age rises and more jobs depend on people's communication skills than 20 or 30 years ago, this vulnerability to unemployment is a growing problem. Now, research shows that hearing loss is also linked to other health problems, doubling the risk of developing depression and increasing the risk of anxiety and other mental health difficulties. I know there's also increasing evidence of links between hearing loss and dementia, and evidence linking hearing loss to learning disabilities, diabetes, stroke and obesity. Now that's the bad news. The good news is that there is incontrovertible evidence that hearing aids and other technologies, including cochlear implants, improve people's ability to communicate and improve their quality of life. They reduce that risk of depression and other health problems. But early intervention is key to maximising the benefits, so we must address issues around early diagnosis, prompt referral to high-quality audiology services, and the appropriate provision of hearing aids and other interventions. Hearing aids are most effective when they're fitted early, but on average, as my honourable friend said, people wait 10 years before seeking help, and when they do eventually seek help, GPs fail to refer 45% of those reporting problems with their hearing to NHS audiology services. And that's why I was so disappointed that the National Screening Committee decided not to recommend an adult hearing screening programme that could have helped us address that issue. Now, I'm sure that the Minister has read the research report by Action on Hearing Loss and the Ear Foundation, which I have here, which posed the question, adult hearing screening, can we afford to wait any longer? If he hasn't, he's very welcome to have my copy. Their evidence tells us that the answer to the question is a resounding no, and I hope the Minister will agree to look again at that evidence. The idea that people don't wear their hearing aids and keep them in a drawer is outdated. Today's technologies are accepted and are worn, although the more that we can do to improve follow-up care and reduce stigma, the better. Tackling hearing loss is cost-effective. We can't afford to wait years for a randomised control trial. We should be acting now. Now, of course, we're also very concerned about the risk of rationing access to hearing aids as local health commissioners' budgets are under intense pressure. In fact, Action on Hearing Loss's report into NHS audiology across the UK, which is titled Under Pressure, showed that 30% of NHS audiology providers had seen their budgets reduced, and taken together with increased demand, this had led to 2/5 of providers making service reductions, including longer waiting times, reduced follow-up appointments and reduced availability of home visits. In a small number of cases, providers were not providing 2 hearing aids to patients with hearing loss in both ears, and worse still, as everyone is aware, North Staffordshire CCG decided in March last year to stop funding free NHS hearing aids for those with mild hearing loss altogether. Now, there was a real fear that others would follow them, but so far, as a result of significant campaigning by Action on Hearing Loss and many others, they haven't. South Staffordshire, South Norfolk, Kernow and Mid-Essex CCGs, which had all signalled their intentions to restrict hearing aid provision, have now decided otherwise, or at least delayed a decision until the National Commissioning Framework is published. But three CCGs in Worcestershire are currently consulting on potential changes to local health services, including a proposal to cut NHS hearing aid provision. So there is still that threat to services. When I asked the then Minister, the member for Central Suffolk and North Ipswich, about the North Staff's decision, he told me if the Honourable Lady has concerns about local commissioning decisions, she should take them up with local commissioners. It's important that clinical decisions are now designed and delivered by frontline healthcare professionals. If she's concerned about them, I'm sure she'll take that up with her local CCG. Now, I know that the Minister opposite shares the APPG's concerns about rationing, and I hope that he can provide me with some much greater assurance that he will ensure that the commitments made in the government's action plan are more than warm words, but they're translated into effective action. The action plan and the commissioning guidance present a real opportunity to improve the lives of millions of people. I hope that we're going to grasp it. Thank you.